Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Wow, I can't believe I finally have a story to share on this sub. I was in the ER today with an infected cat bite. After about an hour in the waiting room, I finally got a room and started an antibiotic IV drip. After that's finished, I called my doctor back using the call button like he told me to. It takes another 15 minutes or so, and he busts into the room and basically says, "We have an ambulance in 10 minutes, we need this room so you have to move." Obviously, he was more professional than that, but I summed it up. He unhooks a line, needle still in my arm, and walks me to a room that already had 2 people in it and gets me a chair. He tells me to wait a bit and someone will come take it out. Annoying but understandable. The ER is full, past capacity as far as I can tell. I'm sitting there and this lady in the room starts hemming and hawing about how this is ridiculous and how long she has been waiting. The nurse literally was just in the room tending to her. She keeps this up for a good 5 minutes before she hits the call button, repeatedly. The lady comes over the intercom and asks what's wrong. And I kid you not, her reply was,
"This is a horrible customer service. I have been waiting over an hour and no one has seen me yet."
The lady over the intercom just said to wait a few more minutes and someone will be in to see you. This lady in for God knows what gets up and takes off all the wires and rips the IV out of her arm and storms out of the room. I can't believe what just happened, and I'm having trouble picking my jaw up off the floor. I hear a "Ma'am, what are you doing?" and some indiscernible screaming. Just then my doctor came in and got the IV needle out of my arm, finished up with all the paperwork and whatnot, and sent me on my way. On my way out, I saw her being loaded into a police car, still screaming her head off. So this happened back in 2017. It was a normal school day morning and I had gotten ready and was waiting for the bus. A bit of background first. The way the bus system works in our school is that the driver cannot wait more than 5 minutes for one late pupil. So there was probably one of the youngest kids who used the bus. He was 5 years old, quite an innocent kid whose mother usually escorted him to the bus stop. So we had waited at the bus stop for about 5 minutes already, and nobody was coming. So the driver began to move on. We had gotten way far from there when there were honks from a car tailgating us. Then the car overtakes us and slams on their brakes. Luckily, the bus driver was able to slam on the brakes. Now everyone is just shaken up. We had almost crashed straight into a car. And guess who walks out? Yep, the entitled mother of this story.
"How dare you leave my kid? He's 5. I have a job and can't be chasing you to pick him. It is your job to pick up my kid and get him to school. Is that so hard for you to do? Open this door and take my child to school. Now!"
She was obviously screaming and shooting daggers at the driver. The child meanwhile is just there, shocked and surprised. I'm not sure if this woman picked the right space to almost run a bus load of kids off the road, cause after barely long, the cops were there. Cop 1 directed to the bus driver, "Sir, is there a problem here?" Now, the entitled mother had a look of worry on her face. She knew she was in the wrong. The bus driver and the entitled mother tell their side of the story. The other cop says, "So ma'am, did you try to run this bus off the road?" And the entitled mother is not apologetic at all.
"Of course I didn't. I just wanted the stupid driver to stop."
"Okay ma'am, you'll need to come with us." And now this woman went from just an entitled mother to a very horrible parent. She makes a break for her car, leaving her child behind. And in the midst of it, the first cop then tases her. She was quickly arrested and put in a cop car. The worst was the kid was just standing there watching her mom curse at the driver, watching her get tased and so on. She looked mortified. And what was worse was the bus driver usually would stretch the 5-minute limit for everyone who was late. And he hated leaving a pupil behind. I think the lady ended up paying a ridiculous fine and doing a few months in a slammer. The takeaway: not only was she an entitled witch who thought the school rules do not apply to her, but a horrible parent who was ready to endanger then abandon her kid at the first sign of trouble. Okay, so this story is from ages ago, but I was watching one of YouTube's old videos and there was a story about someone who had the same bone condition as me. I can't remember its name, but it causes your feet to bend in and forces you to wear uncomfortable insoles. So here we go. I also have a bad knee, which is from falling down the stairs ages ago, but it has some bad days which makes me limp, and with my pointed in feel I look like I'm incredibly drunk due to how I walk. So I was in my park going to the supermarket when two kids and their mom came up behind me and started laughing at me. This went on for a few minutes before the situation went from 0 to 100 really fast, when one of the kids came up and kicked the back of my leg really hard. This caused a wave of pain up my leg and I fell over, due to not being able to support myself on my bad knee. The kids started to laugh at me on the ground trying to get up. When their mom told the kid to take the watch, it was an Apple Watch for faking my injury. As the two kids bent down, I lashed out and hit them on the cheek before propping myself up on the fence. As the entitled mother went berserk and started clawing at my face with her ugly acrylic nails. I started just swinging my fist as a defensive tactic, when a random dude, my hero, ran over, kicked the mother to the ground and pulled her and her kids away from me. At this point I was bleeding badly from my face and hands, and I did not find out till much later that during the initial kick, my knee had shifted again, forcing me into a cast for a few months. The reason why I felt no pain was due to the massive amounts of adrenaline. I was left up with a bad scar near my eye and now permanent knee damage. The aftermath: my parents took the entitled mother to the court for assault and attempted theft. We won the case due to the entitled mother's horrible lying and the amount of evidence against her. She had to pay £540 in damages, and she was sentenced to 1 year in prison. I know, not enough by any means, but oh well. My neighbor does not have a homeowners association, at least not anymore. When my parents first moved in, my older sibling was maybe 2 years old and with me as a little glowworm. There was an HOA. They took money from the neighborhood in exchange for their services. At first, and for quite a while, my parents just kinda shrugged it off. The HOA shoveled the snow off the street in winter and dealt with trash collection. So they were doing something worthwhile, right? Ha, no. The city controlled the snow plows and garbage trucks, not the HOA, but still there was the illusion of effort. And besides, one summer they decided to contact a company to plant new trees all over the neighborhood. The fact that the company was owned by the son of the head of the HOA was totally coincidental. The trees were the beginning of the end for the HOA. Why? Well, my grandma on my dad's side was visiting when they came around to plant the trees. My grandma, who is a certified master gardener, and so she stared through the windows of our house as the guys planting the trees just dropped the saplings on the grass. Still with the roots inside the bag, they came in. No holes dug, no holes cut, just a bagged sapling lying on the grass like a pathetic and sad stick. The saplings laid there all night. No one came back to actually do their job and plant them. My master gardener grandma motioned offhand that those saplings were going to die unless they got in the soil. And something clicked in my mom's head. She was paying the HOA money, actual money, every single month, while both she and my dad worked, taking care of two very little kids, sending us to daycare and preschool, and arranging babysitters and feeding us. The homeowners association was just going to pull this offhand nonsense instead of do what she's paying them for. No freaking way. So she showed up to the head of the HOA's house and basically demanded that the trees get planted properly, like she's apparently paying for them to. The head of the HOA, so excited for someone actually caring about the neighborhood, made their second mistake. They asked if mom wanted to join the HOA, and she agreed. The trees were planted, but most didn't make it. My grandma was right. First thing first, my mom showed up to the next HOA meeting, and there were like 5 people there. No wonder they asked mom to join. They desperately needed the people. So mom looked at this collection of white people, herself included, who weren't even paying money to the HOA like the rest of the neighborhood. All the contractors the HOA called in were close relatives of other HOA members and weren't paid by the HOA. After all, they are family. So my mom started digging. She spent pretty much a full summer taking down the HOA before she had to go back to teaching in the fall. With me carted along after her and my sibling old enough to be in school or daycare. She dug through the years of paperwork detailing the HOA's financial situation, and she found something. Something extremely enlightening. Well, the HOA didn't actually do anything. Well, they didn't do anything to benefit the community. Everything they claimed to do was either covered by the individual homeowner or by the city itself. So they were collecting money from all the neighborhood residents under false pretenses. And actually, they weren't even supposed to be in our neighborhood. Their association zone was a whole different neighborhood. So what is a working mother of 2 small children to do while her husband is off at work and she's off for the summer? She goes door to door with pamphlets, me and my sibling in a stroller as she weaves her way through the neighborhood blocks. Pamphlets explaining the situation and how to stop paying for services you will never get. Pamphlets that are of course written in both English and Spanish to account for the high amount of Latino and Hispanic people in our neighborhood. And naturally she got a lawyer and an accountant too. It put a major dent in her pocket, but if it meant the entire neighborhood wasn't exploited for money each month, it was worth every single penny. Another HOA member helped her sift through the documents and data and pass out pamphlets and encourage people to show up to the meetings, but had to back out because of work-related reasons. My mom rolled up to the courthouse flanked by the lawyer and accountant, her kids safe at home with her husband, and had more than enough evidence to get the Homeowners Association out of her neighborhood. Expose the fraudsters for the frauds they were, and make sure that no HOA would ever push their luck in our neighborhood again. It's been almost 19 years and no one's even tried making another homeowners association in our neighborhood. So, a few decades back, I was involved with a group of guys with a little money and we wanted something substantial to invest in. We decided to buy a restaurant franchise. I will not even say what kind, as Zach could identify me. Well, everything was going along swimmingly until my partners backed out. I unfortunately was the face of the group and my signature was on the bottom line. So I got stuck with running the place. It soon became apparent that there were a lot of inconsistencies. The big number one was that the sales in the prospectus were nowhere near what was being generated. Then there were other things. Customers call in for their regular order. Well, it turned out that my particular franchise had been used for the past several years to deal grass and various drugs. The former manager had some serious coin. I was not happy that I had purchased his place. Well, life is not fun when you have just sunk 6 figures, and the likelihood is that you have flushed it down the toilet. However, I was not going to be trifled with. First, I called the accounting firm who signed off on the prospectus. The partner in charge was taken aback. They had never signed off. I presented myself in their offices and spent the next few hours with them and their attorneys. Their name could not be associated with something fraudulent. Next, I wanted my money back. The chief franchisor told me that they would immediately put mine up for sale, but the market was not quite as high as it was when I bought it. Less than 3 months previously, then a prick had the audacity to demand that I paid for my last order from the commissary. Something else to consider. I took the price list provided by the central commissary that we, as franchisees, were compelled to use. Buying fruit, vegetables, cheese, and meat from outside the system would be accompanied by fines from the franchisor. I marched myself back to the accounting firm and asked for a bit of analysis. Turns out commissary prices were from 10 to 300% higher than market. In other words, the franchisor was not interested in food. They were interested in turning around franchises. Well, that little report found its way into the hands of 20 local franchisees. Suddenly, the central commissary was not being used. The district manager starts showing up writing fines. Turns out the district manager is a guy who was supplying the manager of my franchise. I have him on discarded VHS security tape selling. So I take the tapes to the accounting firm for secure storage. Then I go to the franchisor's offices. I lay it on the line that I had their district guy selling drugs in my restaurant. They laugh at me until I tell them that I am the one who supplied the report to the rest of their franchisees. Oh, and by the way, we are starting an action against you. I then showed them that we have placed liens on the building they owned, their commissary, their homes, and their vehicles. I said I have enough to put you guys all in jail. So these mental giants sit me down, write up a little release, and go get me a certified check for every dime I put into the franchise. I agree to the release, however they do not realize that the gouging and the evidence is still in the hands of others. All they succeeded in doing was to get me off the list of owners suing them. Well, the case came to court, and who do you think was on the stand giving a complete rundown? One of them stood up in court and said, "Didn't we pay you to shut up?" "No, you refunded me the money you stole." Now they had 19 other guys taking them apart. I heard that one of the franchisors cried when they took his Porsche, and his wife left him soon after. Years ago, I took a job in another country for a very small company that taught English. My responsibilities included reviewing and editing lesson plans created by non-native English speakers. Many of the lessons taught EU English, while I'm accustomed to US English. My boss and the only other native English speaker was from the UK. Therefore, there were certain nuances that I was unfamiliar with. There were often glaring mistakes I saw slip through on lessons not assigned to me to review, but I never purposefully called people out for them. It was kind of a bad company and bad lessons to begin with. But if there were glaring mistakes, I would quietly fix them. One pay period months after I had been working there, I received a decrease in my pay along with a note explaining that the reasoning was because of X and X mistakes that had slipped through on my work. I was pissed as this was not a part of my contract, but I couldn't really contest it in this foreign country. The note did however note that this decrease in pay for mistakes made on job duties was for all employees in my department. I knew that there were tons of mistakes on other lesson plans that weren't mine. So I pulled up the first one and began sending messages in that group chat of every mistake I could find. And there were a lot. I did this rapid fire until my boss, who was sitting across from me, sent me a message that essentially said, "Don't worry, I can assure you I'm being held to the same standards and expectations," before he got up and walked away in a huff. After he walked out of earshot, my other coworker laughed and said he had messaged her and asked how I knew that particular lesson was one he had Q&A'd. I told her I didn't know. I had just pulled up the first one I knew there were mistakes on. I didn't get any more money taken out of my paychecks after that incident, but I left the company shortly after that. Many years ago, I had some hospitality tickets for F1 at Silverstone. I think it was a year Hamilton won his first season. I decided to get some binoculars to take with me, so I go to the local Jessops and talk to a very nice sales lady who seems genuinely excited at the idea of going to F1 at Silverstone. She suggests some binoculars and I get my wallet out, at which point the sales guy comes bounding over, pushes the sales lady out of the way, grabs the binoculars I was going to buy from her, and asks what I'm thinking of using them for. Barely lets me answer as he grabs some that me and the sales lady had already discounted, because they were twice as much, and suggests that they would be a much better option. Mildly irritated at this point, I was enjoying chatting up to the sales lady. I listed some other reasons that she told me they weren't a good fit. Sales guy rolls his eyes, says she is just a trainee, and the expensive ones are really the ones I want. Eventually, it takes quite a stern no to stop him trying to upsell me. At this point, I really just want to walk out the shop. But I suffer from the occasionally debilitating condition of being English, and that kind of embarrassment is just too much to take. Instead, I will buy them and go home fantasizing about all of the cool things I should have said. So, card in hand, I'm just about to pay and he asks about whether I want insurance. No, just that, thanks.
You really should have insurance. They are very delicate. It doesn't take much to knock a lens out of alignment.
No, it's fine. Just the binoculars, please.
You probably shouldn't buy them without the insurance.
Finally, giving a way out, I nod and agree, and he runs out the back to get the paperwork for the insurance. He comes back and asks me for my name for the insurance. Oh, no, sorry. I was just agreeing with you that I shouldn't buy them. Not if they are that delicate. I'm quite clumsy, you know, so I'll definitely break them. He tries to backtrack on some of the ones that the sales lady had suggested, saying that they would actually be perfect for me. I reminded him he said they weren't very good. Then I thanked him for helping me see that I really didn't need to spend all that money on binoculars, and I walked out. Thank you for watching and see you next time.